So how do you calculate and disclose your carbon footprint for free? In the next 15 minutes, we're going to take you through this. My name's Wendy Buckley. I'm chair of the Sustainable Business Network in North Hampshire and also client director over here at Carbon Footprint. This presentation was given at the Unlocking Hampshire's Green Potential event, and we asked the audience a number of questions, including this one up here on the screen. And as you might expect, everyone agreed that data on carbon footprint should be readily available and certainly shouldn't be hidden behind a paywall. Hence this question just here. We also asked whether you felt your business could benefit from having its carbon footprint in the public domain. Again, all the hands went up. What we can tell from these three questions we've asked is that everyone believes that the carbon data should be in the public domain, including their own. Let's first look at the reasons that the data isn't out there. Sometimes it's true that it hasn't been calculated because it's perceived to be too difficult. On other occasions, it is hidden behind a paywall and folks don't have the budget to access those things. Let's do some myth busting on calculating carbon footprint emissions for businesses. It's ultimately down to multiplying two numbers together. We've got a published number being an emissions intensity factor multiplied by a measured factor, which could be to do with the electricity usage in kilowatt hours, it could be fuel usage in litres, etc, etc. Ultimately, you're just going to multiply those two numbers together across a range of different things as relates to your buildings, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, flights, transport, all those sorts of things, but still just multiplying two numbers together. Are supply chain emissions actually so difficult to do? Let's look at three different methods. If you're just starting out, I recommend that you use a spend-based approach. You know the amount of money you've spent on various things and you know the SIC codes for those. This we call a cost-based screening. When you do this, the numbers are not going to be super accurate for the CO2, but it will allow you to screen and see where the hotspots are. Moving to the right, yes, the analysis becomes a little bit more difficult, but if you can have a proxy business that looks similar to the one that you're buying from, you can use that data. Ultimately, we want you to get the results from your supplier, and you should be using those carbon footprints to calculate what the emissions are. That tends to be a little more difficult, though with your major suppliers, they should be willing. So those are the three different ways that you can go about calculating your supply chain footprint. Right, let's just have a look at different costs for measuring your footprint. On the left, you have the DIY approach. That does require the most effort from you. However, there are worse things you can do than work out what the formulae are to go in your MS Excel spreadsheet. It's a way of learning. You will need published factors, and you can go to the Carbon Database Initiative to pick those all up in one place, or you can go searching various separate sources on the internet. Second way you can do it, and very popular, is a consultant-led approach. This will be the most expensive way to do it. Obviously, if it's done by a specialist consultancy, it will be accurate. You can be sure of that. You can see the cost down there. The thing to bear in mind is, or think about, is will you learn from doing that, or are you just taking the whole initiative and passing it to someone else? So I think you need to look really carefully and see, well, is my business going to take the learnings from doing that? And if the answer is no, then you might want to look at a different method. The free versions that I'm going to show you about next involve Sustrax Lite. This is an online platform for calculating your carbon footprint, and for the smallest SMEs, it is free to use. By using the platform, you'll still have control of putting in data, looking at analysis screens. So it still does require you to have some input to it. And where there's input, there's learning. Here's a quick screenshot from Sustrax Lite. And you can see down the left side there the types of categories of carbon emissions that we're measuring. So going all the way back to what we said about multiplying two numbers together, these are the different categories that you're going to assess against. And for Sustrax Lite, you're going to be putting in numbers that will be, for instance, litres of fuel, or it might be miles travelled, or it may be kilowatt hours spent on electricity, or it may be pound notes that you've spent on things. Any of those units can be used interchangeably within Sustrax Lite, and in a short amount of time you will get to a screen with your results on and be able to see with a simple representation here in a pie chart, best way of looking at it, where the emissions are coming from. The QR code on screen there will work, so please do log on to Sustrax Lite and have a look at how that works there. Now you've assessed your carbon footprint, time to get it online. And let's talk about why you need to do this. It is really important that you avoid green hushing. I think most of us know what green washing is, when we overstate the mark with our green programs, and actually when it comes to the evidence, it just isn't there. Green hushing is the opposite of this, but it's equally as dangerous. Green hushing is where you have a program of green activities, carbon management, but you say nothing about it. Well, why is that so dangerous? If you're saying nothing about it, what does your customer think? Your customer thinks that you're not doing anything. Or worse than that, your customer thinks you've got something to hide. Neither of those is a good thing. On top of that, you are not encouraging your peers to take action. So if we all take action and we all make a responsible claim about what we're doing, we will bring others on this journey to net zero with us. So that's why it's so important to be saying things, to be making those claims out there in the public domain, not overstating the mark, and making sure that we're bringing all our peers with us. It's really important. How do we disclose? There are three main places you need to do this. On your website, absolutely. And don't hide it away on your website. Make it easily accessible. Make it easy to read as well. Make sure it's linked to your homepage, so don't hide it away on a page that's just not linked to anywhere that anyone's going to find it. You're going to put your results as well whenever you can in your annual report and accounts. For large businesses, this of course sits in the Director's Report section and is known as the Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reporting. Even if you aren't a large business, why not do that anyway? It's likely within your supply chain you'll be asked, so you might as well start with good intentions there. And finally, where we're going to put some focus now is on the Carbon Database Initiative, CADI. This is the free-to-use, free-to-disclose carbon database. Why are we saying this? Because the emissions take a standard format. We'll see that in a second. They take a standard format, and it's really important because then it can be easily compared to others. Really important. The disclosure that we're making here needs to look like SECR, Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reporting. And that's the approach that CADI takes. So here you're clearly going to see your scope 1, scope 2, and whatever you have of scope 3, and you'll be specific about what categories are included within it, within the disclosure. It will take a standard format. Please do scan the QR code and you can see what one looks like. So right here in Hampshire, we have developed the CADI, the Carbon Database Initiative, and it really is democratising things. It is not hidden behind a paywall. It is completely free to use. It is completely free to disclose. You can check it out via the QR code there. And that's really important because everyone needs to access. If more of us can disclose, then we can more easily see and make informed decisions about what we want to buy. Here's a typical Caddy result, and you can see the progress of this particular business on the screen, and you'll get some graphical interpretation, but it is nice and compact and easy to understand. All the businesses on Caddy look the same as well. You can look up maybe businesses that you don't know so well. You can look up global brands. There are already thousands of businesses on there. And also you can look up country emissions, and just available right now are products and materials. So Caddy really is that turnkey solution to finding out the emissions of all these different things. Let's look at an advert now. What we want to demonstrate is the credentials of the business within that ad, and this is where the Caddy passport comes in. Having published your results and your net zero claims, etc. on Caddy, you then are able to download a Caddy passport, which takes the form of this QR code. You can see here in this collateral how we're using the Caddy passport to demonstrate at the point that ad is made the credentials, and this is really, really important. The Advertising Standards Authority and the EU don't want to stop you making a claim. They just want to make sure that you've got the evidence of it as close as possible to your claim. In this case, it's right on that advert, and that's really important. Couldn't be closer, but it doesn't clutter the ad itself. Lots to think about. Please do visit the SBN video library, and it covers a host of different topics including supply chain footprinting, climate change target setting. It's all there. You can scan the QR code and that will take you directly to it. Coming up for you, we've got a session on product footprinting, really topical because the EU has just launched a new legislation on this topic. Obviously, the UK is no longer in the EU, but a lot of you obviously do export into there, so you need to be aware of it. Also in the UK, with consumer awareness and desire for disclosure of product footprints, it's good to know anyway. Please do sign up for our session on the 22nd of November. If you can't make the date, still do sign up because then you can get the recording. Thanks for listening today. We look forward to seeing you on the next SBN session.